Hey there, people. So today I am bringing you my magic guns guide. This is one category of mage weapons, not regular guns that fire bullets, but magic quote-unquote guns. I'll be covering all the magic guns on all platforms, including how to get them or craft them, the stats, the details, and any differences between different versions. I'm going by the wiki as far as what is counted as a magic quote-unquote gun. So we'll start with one of the most well-known ones, the Pre-Hardmode space gun. There's just three that I'm going to tell you about in Pre-Hardmode. So the space gun is one of them. Pretty well known. It auto fires a green laser, as you can see, and as you can also see, this will pierce 2 enemies and hit a third, so it'll hit up to 3 enemies. It does 19 base magic damage, uses 7 mana, and has a 16 use time, so you can fire it pretty quickly, and it is auto fire. When it is used with meteor armor, of course, as many of you may know, it then uses no mana, so it's basically free ammo if you combine it with meteor armor, and only if. It is crafted at the anvil. Before the update, for the non-updated platforms, it's 30 meteorite bars and 2 fallen stars to make the space gun. Since the update, for those that have it, it's 20 meteorite bars only, no fallen stars involved. So let's move right along. The other one that everyone can get is the bee gun. Bee gun auto fires 1 to 4 homing bees. Of course, they're not homing on the dummies, but it's 1 to 4 homing bees. They will ricochet or bounce up to 3 times. So you can see they do bounce off blocks. And that uses does 9 magic damage, uses 5 mana, and has a 12 use time. So you can see you can actually fire a lot of bees, and the bees will follow and latch onto enemies, producing constant damage. Let's just show that up. Maybe with something a little more powerful, because the bees are actually pretty powerful, which is why they say not the bees. Yeah, that might be a little overly powerful. We'll talk about what that was later. All right, but the bees will dissipate if they touch water or lava. They will not disappear if you fire them in honey. And the bee gun has a 1 in 3 chance to drop from the queen bee when you defeat the queen bee boss. And that constant damage, of course, does make them pretty effective in pre-hard mode. Of course, that mimic is a hard mode enemy, so that's another matter. But the only other one that I'm going to talk about in pre-hard mode is actually specific to mobile and 3DS only, and may go away when mobile gets the update on there. 3DS is not getting the update, of course, but it's the Roman candle, and the Roman candle, it's not that effective, but it looks like a gun, but it fires like a firework, fires a small, very short range, color changing firework. Of course, I can't show you because I'm on PC. It then splits into 3 fireworks, which then each explode into 3 streams of color. It is not auto fire, but has no use time. So if you're on mobile or 3DS, you can it will fire as quickly as you can tap. Basically, it does 10 magic damage, uses 5 mana, and is purchased from the Demolitionist only during Christmas. So that's a little rare pre-hard mode magic weapon on certain platforms only. That's it for pre-hard mode. Most of these are hard mode weapons. So first one you're likely to get is the laser rifle. The laser rifle auto fires a blue laser. And as you can see, it's actually very similar properties to the space gun. It also pierces 2 and hits up to 3 enemies. Does 29 magic damage, uses 8 mana, and has an 11 use time. So as you can see, it fires faster, does more damage, uses slightly more mana, and there's no ability to have it use no mana like the space gun. So there's no, use your meteorite armor and get free free ammo, so to speak, thing with this one. But otherwise, it is basically a direct upgrade from the space gun. It is a 1 in 7 chance to drop from the wall of flesh, so you literally might get this as you get into hard mode potentially. And it's actually a pretty decent weapon. With the right equipment and so on, it can carry you for a little while. And actually, the next one is also sort of an upgrade. The Wasp gun auto fires 2 to 6 homing wasps instead of bees, and they also ricochet, will bounce off things. It uses 19 magic, or it does 19 magic damage before the update, and it does 21 magic damage since the update, uses 6 mana, has an 11 use time. So again, it is also basically an upgrade, but this time from the bee gun that I showed you. The wasps do pierce, which makes it not always so useful against single enemies, but it is powerful, reasonably powerful against groups of enemies. And it is also useful for money farming if you have a lucky coin. This is a 1 in 6 or 1 in 7, depending on the platform, chance to drop from Plantera. That's pre and post update. Not really as useful for its time in the game as the bee gun was in pre-hard mode, unfortunately, but you know, it's all right. And another one that you can also get from Plantera is the leaf blower. And this is sort of like the Crystal Storm spell tome or spell book that I showed in one of my other episodes that on those. It's sort of an upgrade from that, actually. It fires, as you can see, just like a stream of leaf projectiles. These obviously do not pierce, and it is auto fire. It does not pierce, but it does 42 magic damage on the non-updated platforms. It's been buffed to 48 magic damage since the update. Uses 4 mana, has a 6 use time, which is considered insanely fast. As you can see, it is firing a lot of projectiles. So it's sort of an upgrade from the Crystal Storm. And that is also a 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 chance to drop from Plantera, depending whether you have the update or not. Moving right along again. Going to another boss, though. The Heat Ray. This auto fires a beam, which, as you can see, has unlimited piercing, and it's actually instantaneous across its range. Like, it's just fire, it automatically hits. Does not take time to travel, so to speak. And it does 55 magic damage, uses 8 mana, has a 15 use time. It's a 1 in 8 chance to drop from Golem, so you're going to get this a little bit later. Fairly powerful, as you can see. And obviously against, you know, invasion events and that kind of stuff, it's going to be pretty useful because of that unlimited piercing. Also against bosses or things that have a lot of parts to them, like the Destroyer. That will be very useful in those situations. Now another one, the Rainbow Gun. The Rainbow Gun is not auto fire, so if I hold the button down, it doesn't keep firing, but it doesn't need to, because as you can see, you just fire and that basically stays there. If you fire another one, it will replace the one that you already fired. So it will only have one rainbow at a time, but it's pretty. Obviously, it launches a rainbow that gradually arcs downward, as rainbows do, and it will remain there for up to 20 seconds, doing, as you can see, if I fire it at the dummies, constant damage, which is what makes this one very useful. You can basically fire this and then switch to some other weapon and leave it there to do constant damage. So if you put it in the way of your enemies or in a path where they're going to travel through it, it can actually do quite a lot of damage that way. It deals 45 magic damage roughly 5 times per second, and also has infinite piercing, uses 20 mana per shot, has a 39 use time, so you can't just like keep firing it really rapidly, but again, that's not really the point with this weapon. You get this one from the hallowed chest in the dungeon, which you have to open with a hallowed key. That depends whether you're on a pre-update or updated platform, how you get that hallowed key. In the pre-update, there's crafting involved to get that hallowed key. Since the update, it's just dropped from certain enemies, but since the update, you can only actually open the hallowed chest after you defeat Plantera. Before that, to get the ingredients, you need to defeat the 3 mechanical bosses, so it's a little bit earlier that you can get that on the pre-update platforms. Now, famous magic weapon, the Razorpine. The Razorpine auto-fires needle projectiles at high speed and velocity, sort of like a needle machine gun. That in turn is actually sort of an upgrade from that leaf blower that I showed you. So you can see they have a similar method of attack. There's the leaf blower and there's the Razorpine. Similar idea. And these do drop off a little with distance. You can see, I think it actually varies where exactly they drop off, but you can see those needles start to drop off. And it does 58 magic damage before the update, 48 since the update. I guess they thought it was too powerful. It uses 5 mana and has an 8 use time, so as you can see, very, very fast. Again, like the Leaf Blower, no piercing, but that's not a big problem because it's very powerful anyway. It can apparently shoot through 1 block if you're close enough, because basically those projectiles, yeah, there you go. Even better if you're right next to it. Those projectiles basically appear a short distance away from you, which can be a problem if the enemies get too close. But yeah, Razorpine is kind of legendary for a reason. It is a variable chance drop from the Everscream, the pine tree looking guy, during the Frost Moon. Makes sense. So there you go. That's the Razorpine. Very well-known weapon and very useful, certainly. And the last one that's available on all platforms that I'm going to show you is the Bubble Gun. It auto-fires a short-range spread of bubbles. You can see pretty short range. Bubble projectiles. Does 70 magic damage, uses 4 mana, and has a 9 use time. It has a very high damage per second, which I can show you against the dummies. But it's also very short range. So that can be very powerful if you're willing to get close up, and if you're fighting something that is not going to hurt you too much too easily if you're close up, then it can do quite a lot of damage. And so that is a 1 in 5 chance to drop when you defeat Duke Fishron. Let's just show you that against a Mimic here. And a Shark, because I hit the other button as well. But as you can see, takes him out pretty quickly. All right, now, one more that I cannot show you because it does not exist on PC is the Zapinator. It is 3DS only now. It did once exist in the very first version of Terraria. It was on PC, but it was removed for copyright reasons, probably. It looks like a Nintendo Zapper, which is why it's on 3DS only, Nintendo platform. It is not auto-fire, but shoots very rapidly, does 50 magic damage per hit, uses 4 mana, and has a 7 use time, so can fire very fast, although it's not auto-fire. And so that can do like 500 damage per second, roughly, and has a very low drop rate, actually, pretty low drop rate of a roughly, they're not really sure about this on the wiki, it's roughly a 1 in 80 chance to drop from Plantera. As I say, it once existed on PC, but does not anymore since the first update, I believe. So, speaking of updates, on the updated platforms only, and these are also hard mode weapons, of course, there's 2 of them. The first one is the Laser Machinegun, first one I'm going to talk about. And Laser Machinegun auto-fires lasers at a rate that increases, so you can see. It takes a little to spin up, basically. And yeah, it takes about 2 seconds to spin up fully, so that rate increases for 2 seconds. Does 60 magic damage per shot, uses 6 mana, has a 20 use time. The lasers do not pierce. So that's going to be more of a single target kind of weapon, unless you can wipe out, you know, weak enemies quickly. But like the Razorpine, it can actually supposedly fire through a 1-block wall if you're close enough. There you go. And yeah, that's the Laser Machinegun. Has a 1 in 9 chance to drop from the Martian Saucer. And actually, so does the other weapon that I'm going to talk about. The last one of the so-called magic guns is the Charged Blaster Cannon. It is not auto-fire. It has actually 3 firing modes, which is kind of interesting. If you tap, you get these little orbs. And it fires a small non-piercing orb, as you can see. If you hold it down for at least a second, it will fire this charge shot, which does have piercing. It's infinite piercing, I believe. A slightly larger, slightly more powerful shot. And the third firing mode is if you hold it down for more than 3 seconds, you get this very powerful constant beam, which also has infinite piercing. You get that giant beam, and that will fire at whatever direction you fire it at, but obviously you basically have to fire it at a certain angle, and you cannot change that angle once that beam is out. You see, cursor doesn't affect it. You can move, but you cannot change that angle. And it goes through a lot of mana, as you can see as well. So it has those 3 firing modes. That last one, the beam, is sort of similar to the last prism, but obviously not that powerful. Not as powerful as the last prism, but a similar idea. The stats, the basic stats, are 52 magic damage, 14 mana, and 19 use time. Obviously, with the different firing modes, that's not always going to be exactly what happens. But you can see, for instance, that beam obviously does a lot more than 52 magic damage per hit. But yeah, those are the stats anyway. And for those of you who know Mega Man, you may have already recognized this, but it's basically a reference to Mega Man and the Mega Blaster. And it also, as sort of mentioned there, has a 1 in 9 chance to drop from the Martian Saucer during Martian Madness. So it's a pretty effective weapon as well. Let's show you a few of these against our good buddy, the Eye of Cthulhu. Now, I don't have much time here, actually. So we'll just show you Razorpine, Bubble Gun. Those both take him out pretty easily. And we'll show you these last 2 as well. It's probably about all I've got time for. In fact, I'm gonna have to be really quick to show off the Charge Blaster Cannon, because it's almost morning. Okay, stay still, Eye of Cthulhu. If you move around, it's still useful. And that's about it. So hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.